I woke up to my husband having sex with me. Is this the end of our marriage? For context, we've been married 10 years, together for 14. This is the first time in our relationship this, or anything like it, has ever happened. I've read tons of posts about women in similar situations, and I know how stupid I sound when I say that he really is an amazing guy, a loving and respectful husband, and a great father to our kids. A couple of nights ago, we were having sex. It was all normal, good, happy endings all around, that sort of thing. I'd had a couple of drinks, and it was very late, and I feel asleep shortly after we wrap things up. Sometime later, I genuinely can't gauge how long because I was sleeping, I woke up to him inside me. It took me a while to kind of understand what was going on, and I was very disoriented from being woken up to this. I didn't react at all. I wasn't fully awake, but was not asleep at this point, but I pretended to be asleep. I was hoping he'd stop. I froze. I didn't want to confront him. I know this sounds incredibly stupid too, and I'm angry at myself for not reacting more in the moment. It went on long enough that he readjusted my positioning a few times, but he did stop, and I don't believe he came. After that, woke me up, helped get me dressed, and got me tucked in our bed. We haven't spoke about it at all. Here's the thing. I was raped by a friend earlier this year. My husband knows this, and it's been extremely difficult and traumatic. I'm in therapy. I have an appointment for tomorrow. I'm doing better than I was, but this experience with my husband has me feeling all kinds of things. I feel like this was a miscommunication or a mistake between my husband, and I don't want to lump him into the same category as my rapist. But I'm feeling gross and violated, and I'm really not sure how to bring something like this up in a conversation with him. It's a weird/hard enough situation without even considering my past assault. I'm just at a loss here. I don't know how to talk to him about it, and I don't know if I should feel the way I do, because I know he wouldn't intentionally cause me harm. TLDR, I woke up to my husband having sex with me, which brought up feelings from an assault earlier this year. Edit. Hopefully I'm allowed to add something here. Different subs have different rules. There are too many comments saying the same thing, so I'm just going to write it here. If you and your partner have an agreement and consent to do this, cool. Love that for you. My husband and I do not, so please, for the love of God, stop saying I should be fine with it, because in your partnership you're fine with it. It's not the same. Consent is key. He was awake. He woke me up after, which implies he was already awake. He does not have sexsomnia. If he did have sexsomnia, it's still assault because of lack of consent. Update number 1. I'm not even sure why I'm doing an update, only that I have no one to talk to about this. My friends are all friends with my husband, their husbands are close friends with mine. I don't even know how to talk about this. I was able to see my therapist yesterday, who is lovely and helpful. She gave me some good ideas for how to talk to my husband about it and help talk me through my feelings. One thing she said that stuck out to me was something like, I'm reacting like this because I'm meeting you where you're at with this, not because I don't think this is very serious. She said it much better than me. The gravity of it is setting in now, which I was anticipating given my recent history. I talked to my husband last night. I think I did quite well and was able to get the points across that I wanted to in a way I wanted to. I never felt unsafe or threatened. I started by asking him how many times we'd had sex that night. This look flashed across his face, and something in me went, okay, here we go. I'm not sure best how to format this, so I'll do bullet points. He said we were talking after sex the first time. When I challenged that repeatedly, he said I was making noises in my sleep. I asked him if he was touching me, sexually, at that point, and he said he didn't know. He said he thought I was willing. I asked him why he didn't stop when I wasn't reacting, participating, or engaging with him, and he didn't have an answer. He kept saying he thought I was into it. I asked him why he thought I was willing when he had to keep repositioning me. He didn't have an answer. TW for the next bit, I guess, as I elaborate on the repositioning thing. I'm sorry, but I think it'll clarify things. This actually makes me sick to my stomach to type out and think about. I was face down flat on my stomach. Usually during sex in that or a similar position, the receiver is bracing themselves / pushing back / holding themselves in place / etc. Because I was not doing any of that, I kept sliding forward on the bed, and he'd have to pull me back into him. This happened 3 to 4 times. He says he's very sorry and didn't know it was not consensual. He feels creepy and gross, which is where I said, yeah, well, it was creepy and gross, like he broke my trust and doesn't know how to fix it. He asked how I was doing, and I said bad. He said I should know he wouldn't do anything to hurt me, And I had to keep pointing out that, well, yes, he did. In the moment, I don't believe he thought perfect. She's vulnerable, and I'm going to rape her. I think he wanted to have sex and didn't assess/realize/respond quickly to the fact that I wasn't awake. I really don't know where that leaves me, to be honest. I almost wish it was just purely intentional, because then I wouldn't feel so conflicted and like I'm making him into this bad guy. If you made it this far, thanks for reading. Not sure I'll update again. Also, I didn't realize I wasn't allowed to post a link to my previous post, so it's been removed. Edit. Once again, so cool that you and your partner have this dynamic that you discussed and both consented to beforehand. Not shitting on anyone's kink. My husband and I do not have this arrangement, so please stop saying I should be fine with it, because you're fine with it in your partnership. Update number 2. Thank you everyone for all the supportive comments. I wrote my first post just to yell into the void, and I didn't really expect anyone to answer back. My husband and I have had a few conversations. The first one went well. I outlined it in my last post. The second one the next day did not go well. He got angry and defensive. Maybe I would too if someone accused me of rape. I don't know. He asked over and over again why I waited so long, 3 days, to tell him. I told him I waited so I could process my thoughts and feelings more, and so I could talk with my therapist. He told me he didn't want this to fester and for me to get depressed over it, which felt so dismissive and hit me like a slap in the face. I said, I feel like this because I feel like you raped me. He didn't take that well and kept saying he wasn't that kind of person and that I should know him better than that. He accused me of being too drunk to remember things properly. I had 2 light beers over the course of 4 hours, which is not at all a problem for me. I asked him how much he'd had, and he said he didn't know. The conversation was getting heated, and I asked for some space. He was headed to bed anyway, so I was waiting for him to leave. He didn't like that I was ending the conversation, and I had to ask him maybe 5 to 6 times before he finally went to bed. That whole conversation made me feel very stressed and panicky. The third conversation was last night, and I kept it short because I wanted to be alone. He apologized for how he reacted. He said sorry and that he'd never intentionally do anything to hurt me. I thanked him and explained why I wasn't happy with how he reacted. I asked him how sex ended because I realized I actually have no idea. He said it was over when he came, so that was horrifying to me. He reiterated that he thought I was awake and that he has no explanation for what happened. Frankly, I'm insulted because you're telling me I usually fuck like an unconscious person? That's a joke. I'm actually crying. I read a comment on a Reddit thread yesterday that said, sometimes genuinely messing up has genuine consequences. I felt a lot of relief reading that because even if it was an accident, I still feel traumatized. I don't have to forgive him or sweep it under the rug because he said it was an accident. Thanks for reading and thanks for the support. I don't think I would have had the confidence to challenge his version if it weren't for you guys. Edit. Once again, just because you have a free use or CNC dynamic in your relationship does not mean I should have it in mine. Fuck right off with that. Update 3. How to fix my marriage after my husband crossed sexual boundaries. I, 32F, and my husband, 34M, have been together almost 15 years, married 10. I'm going to try keep this concise, but the whole thing is in my post history. Last week he had sex with me while I was asleep. He believed I was awake and participating consensually. He's very remorseful and upset at having misinterpreted the situation and at having hurt me so badly. I was raped earlier this year by a friend, and this situation with my husband is bringing up and compounding a lot of that trauma. I know how this all looks on paper. Up until this point, he's been an incredible husband and father, loving, caring, supportive, and we had an active sex life. The problem is that this has shattered my trust and, if I'm being honest, some of my love for him. I look at him and I feel angry and disgusted. I'm sad at what happened and sad for what I feel like our relationship has lost. I want him to comfort me, but I can't be touched by him. I see a therapist regularly, but he does not. I'm reaching out hoping that someone can offer advice or has been through something similar.